The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber split open with a sound like thunder rolling across distant mountains. Ambassador Marcus Webb stepped through the threshold, his polished black shoes clicking against the crystalline floor that stretched endlessly toward the most intimidating sight in known space. Above him, the chamber rose in impossible spirals, its walls alive with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with the heartbeat of 1,000 worlds. The council representatives filled tier after tier of curved benches that seemed to climb toward infinity. Webb counted species he had only read about in classified reports. The towering Vex with their multiple arms weaving complex gestures, the crystalline Etherians whose bodies shifted through spectrums of light, the massive stone-like Gorlani, whose breathing created tremors in the floor, hundreds of alien forms, each representing civilizations that had ruled the stars for millennia before humanity had even discovered fire. At the chamber's apex sat the High Tribunal, 3 beings whose authority stretched across the galaxy. In the center, High Judge Mira of the Zethran Empire fixed her 6 eyes on the lone human figure below. Her voice echoed through the chamber's perfect acoustics, carrying the weight of absolute power. Species designation: human, homeworld, Earth, Sol system. You stand before the Galactic Council to answer for violations that threaten the stability of interstellar law. Webb stood perfectly still, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, the air hummed with translation devices working in dozens of languages, creating a symphony of alien voices all focused on him. The chamber's massive holographic displays activated, showing star charts marked with red zones, areas of space where human activities had apparently crossed forbidden lines. "The charges are severe," continued Judge Mira, her voice growing colder with each word. "Unauthorized expansion beyond designated boundaries, resource extraction in disputed territories, development of weapons technology in violation of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. These are not the actions of a species seeking peaceful coexistence." The assembled representatives stirred, their various forms of communication creating a chorus of clicks, hisses, and harmonic vibrations that expressed clear disapproval. The serpentine Nalori swayed in patterns that Webb's briefings had taught him meant extreme displeasure. The insectoid Thex clicked their mandibles in rhythms that spoke of violent solutions. Webb waited. The silence stretched until even the massive Gorlani stopped their rumbling breaths. When he finally spoke, his voice carried clearly through the chamber without any trace of fear or submission. "Honorable representatives of the Council, humanity acknowledges your concerns and accepts your judgment." The reaction was immediate and shocking. In the 3,000 years of galactic governance, no accused species had ever simply accepted judgment without argument, negotiation, or desperate pleas for mercy. The chamber erupted in confused communications as representatives tried to process what they had just heard. Judge Mira leaned forward, her massive form casting shadows across the human ambassador. "You accept judgment without hearing the sentence? Without offering defense or explanation?" Webb's expression remained calm, almost serene. "Humanity has always respected the authority of the Galactic Council. We entered this chamber knowing that whatever decision you reach, we will comply fully." The second judge, a being of pure energy contained within a geometric frame, pulsed with agitated light patterns. "This is unprecedented. No species accepts expulsion from galactic civilization without protest." "Expulsion?" Webb asked, though his tone suggested he was not surprised by the word. "The penalty for your violations is clear," Judge Mira declared, her voice now carrying the formal weight of galactic law. "Humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council. All human colonies beyond the Sol system must be abandoned within 1 standard year. All trade agreements are nullified. Earth's diplomatic status is revoked, and humanity is banned from participation in interstellar governance for 500 standard years." Webb nodded once, a gesture so simple it seemed to carry enormous significance. "Understood. We will need 72 hours to organize our withdrawal." "Granted," Judge Mira replied, though something in the human's tone sent an inexplicable chill through her consciousness. As Webb turned to leave, his footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber, he paused at the threshold where he had entered. Without turning back, he spoke words that would echo through galactic history. "The Council has made its decision, and humanity will respect it completely. However, I believe you will find that our departure creates consequences you have not fully considered. The massive doors closed behind him with finality, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. For long moments, no representative spoke. The weight of what had just occurred settled over them like a heavy blanket, though none could yet understand why. High Judge Mira was the first to break the silence. Initiate immediate communication with all council monitoring stations. I want detailed reports on human activities throughout the galaxy. Something about this feels wrong. The third judge, an ancient being whose species had helped found the council, spoke in harmonics that carried deep concern. In all my centuries of service, I have never seen such confidence from a condemned species. Either humanity is supremely naive, or we have made a terrible mistake. Within hours, the first reports began arriving. Human ships were already moving throughout the galaxy, not in panic or desperation, but with the organized efficiency of a plan long prepared. Evacuation vessels appeared at human colonies with precision timing. Research teams began shutting down collaborative projects with methodical care. Trade networks started experiencing minor but noticeable disruptions as human components were quietly removed. The Vex representatives' multiple arms gestured frantically as data streams flowed across the chamber's displays. The humans are not simply leaving. They are systematically withdrawing from every aspect of galactic infrastructure. They seem to have anticipated this outcome. Judge Mira studied the incoming data with growing unease. Humanity had been part of galactic civilization for only 50 years, a brief moment in cosmic terms. They were young, inexperienced, and seemingly powerless compared to the ancient civilizations that ruled the stars. Yet they were conducting their expulsion with the calm confidence of a species that held all the cards in a game no one else knew they were playing. Continue monitoring, she ordered, and prepare detailed reports on all human technological contributions to Council infrastructure. I want to know exactly what we are losing. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, none noticed the subtle changes already beginning in the station's systems. Communication delays of mere milliseconds. Power fluctuations so small they barely registered on sensors. Navigation systems requiring fractional course corrections. The signs were there, but they would not be understood until it was far too late. Humanity had entered the galactic community as supplicants seeking acceptance. They were leaving as something else entirely, and the Council was about to discover just how thoroughly they had underestimated the quiet species from the small blue world at the edge of the galaxy. The humans had departed silently, but their silence would soon speak louder than any words. The evacuation of Titan Mining Station began exactly 71 hours and 14 minutes after Ambassador Webb left the Council chamber. Captain Rachel Torres watched from the command deck as human transport ships arrived in perfect formation, their timing so precise it seemed choreographed. Each vessel docked with mechanical efficiency, beginning a withdrawal that would strip the station of more than just personnel. Station Chief Corex of the Thraxian species stood beside Torres, his insect-like form trembling with agitation. His compound eyes reflected the lights of the docking ships as he tried to understand what he was witnessing. Captain Torres, surely you are not removing the quantum processing cores? Those systems control the entire station's mining operations. Without them, our mineral extraction will drop to primitive levels. Torres continued monitoring the loading procedures on her tablet, checking off items with methodical precision. The cores were designed by human engineers, Chief Corex. They come with us. But the contracts with 17 different worlds depend on this station's output. The hegemony worlds alone require 40% of our refined materials for their manufacturing sectors. You cannot simply take critical infrastructure. We can, and we are. Torres's voice carried no malice, only the finality of a decision already made. Every piece of technology that humanity contributed to this station returns to human space. That includes the quantum cores, the gravitational stabilizers, the atmospheric processors, and the central computer networks. As if to emphasize her point, the lights in the command center flickered briefly as human technicians began disconnecting systems throughout the station. Corex watched in horror as screens went dark, then came back online with reduced functionality. "This is impossible," he whispered. "We monitored all technology installations. There were safeguards, oversight committees, approval processes. How can your people have integrated so deeply without our knowledge?" Torres finally looked at him, and Corex saw something in her expression that chilled him more than the station's failing life support systems. It was not anger or resentment, but a kind of sad understanding. "Chief Corex, When humanity joined the galactic community 50 years ago, we realized very quickly that we could not compete in terms of raw military power or ancient political influence, so we found other ways to make ourselves valuable. She gestured toward the massive holographic display that showed the station's layout. Red indicators marked systems that were being removed, while yellow showed systems that would fail without human components. The display was overwhelmingly red and yellow. Every collaborative project we joined, every piece of technology we helped improve, every system we enhanced, we made sure our contributions were woven into the fundamental operations, not as vulnerabilities or weapons, but as integral components that made everything work better. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out with clockwork precision. On the diplomatic world of Harmony Prime, human negotiators quietly withdrew from peace talks between warring species, taking with them mediation techniques that had prevented 3 conflicts from escalating to system-wide wars. On the trade hub of Central Exchange, human financial algorithms began shutting down, leaving markets struggling to process the complex multi-species transactions that had become routine. Most critically, on Research Station Alpha 7, Dr. Elena Martinez supervised the evacuation of humanity's most secretive project. The station appeared to be conducting routine stellar observations, but its true purpose was far more significant. Hidden within its arrays of sensors and processors was humanity's contribution to the galaxy's early warning system against threats from beyond known space. Dr. Martinez walked through laboratories filled with technology that represented decades of collaborative research between humans and 12 other species. Her team worked with quiet efficiency, downloading data and carefully removing components that would render the entire project inoperable. The Etherian scientist Lux Prime materialized beside her in a cascade of shifting light patterns, its crystalline form pulsing with what Martinez had learned to recognize as distress. Dr. Martinez, you cannot remove the quantum entanglement communicators. Without them, the Deep Space Monitoring Network will be blind to extragalactic threats. The entire project will fail. Martinez paused in her packing, looking at the being she had worked beside for 5 years. Lux Prime, I am truly sorry, but the Council has made its decision. Humanity is no longer part of galactic defense initiatives. But the theoretical frameworks, the mathematical models you developed, they are essential to the project's success. Surely you can leave copies, technical specifications, something to maintain the work we have built together. I'm afraid not, Martinez replied gently. The knowledge leaves with us. All of it. As her words sank in, Lux Prime's form shifted through color spectrums that Martinez recognized as the Etherian equivalent of panic. The being suddenly understood that humanity was not just leaving. They were taking with them the intellectual foundation that made the galaxy's most advanced projects possible. Meanwhile, on Council Station itself, the first signs of the coming crisis were beginning to manifest. Communications with Outer Rim worlds experienced slight delays. The station's environmental systems required manual adjustments that had been automatic for decades. Most concerning of all, the massive computational networks that managed interstellar traffic began producing routing errors that forced ships to calculate longer, less efficient paths between stars. High Judge Mira stood in her private chambers, reviewing reports that painted an increasingly troubling picture. Each update revealed another layer of human integration into galactic infrastructure. They had not conquered through force or stealth, but through indispensability. Her communication system chimed with an incoming message from Admiral Stone, humanity's former military liaison. The human woman's face appeared on the screen, her expression calm and professional. Your Honor, I hope I am not interrupting anything important. Admiral Stone. You are no longer authorized to contact this office. Humanity has been expelled from all council proceedings. Of course, Stone replied smoothly. I am not contacting you as a council liaison. I am simply making a courtesy call to inform you of certain developments you should be aware of. Despite herself, Mira leaned forward. What developments? As you have undoubtedly noticed, our withdrawal has created some minor disruptions in galactic infrastructure. What you may not yet realize is that these are only the preliminary effects. Stone's image was replaced by star charts showing failing systems across the galaxy. What had appeared to be isolated incidents now revealed themselves as part of a massive, interconnected network of dependencies. You see, Judge Mira, human contributions to galactic civilization were not limited to physical components. We also provided theoretical frameworks, mathematical solutions, and technological innovations that became integral to how your systems operate. Removing our presence creates cascading effects that will continue to multiply. The magnitude of what Stone was describing hit Mira like a physical blow. You were saying that humanity deliberately made the galaxy dependent on your technology? Not dependent, Stone corrected. Integrated. We became part of the technological ecosystem that supports galactic civilization. Our expulsion is like removing a vital organ from a living body. The organism can survive, but it will never function the same way again. As the communication ended, Mira stared at the darkened screen, finally understanding the true scope of humanity's quiet revolution. They had not conquered the galaxy through force or manipulation. They had made themselves so thoroughly necessary that their absence would cripple the very foundations of interstellar civilization, and they had done it all while appearing to be nothing more than eager junior partners in galactic society. Captain Vex of the merchant vessel Stellar Wanderer stared at his navigation console in complete bewilderment. For 30 years he had piloted ships through the galaxy's most treacherous space lanes, but he had never seen anything like this. His hyperdrive, a state-of-the-art system that had operated flawlessly for 2 decades, was displaying error messages that made no sense. "Engineer Flux, run another diagnostic on the hyperdrive core," he ordered, his forearms gesturing frantically at the failing displays. Flux, a methodical Nexari whose species had perfected starship engineering for centuries, worked at the control panels with increasing desperation. "Captain, the quantum field generators are failing, but according to specifications, they should operate continuously for another 50 years. The failure pattern suggests missing components, but our inventory shows everything is present. Run a deep molecular scan. I want to know what is causing this malfunction." The results sent a chill through both beings. Buried deep within the hyperdrive's quantum field generators were microscopic components, quantum-etched processing chips that carried manufacturer markings they had never noticed before. Terra Dynamics, a human corporation. Within hours, similar discoveries spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Emergency diagnostics revealed the shocking scope of humanity's technological integration. Human-designed components existed in virtually every piece of advanced technology in galactic civilization, not as primary systems that would attract attention, but as crucial subcomponents, the technological equivalent of vitamins in a biological system. Small, seemingly insignificant but absolutely essential for proper function. On Council Station, Emergency Session 4471 convened as reports flooded in from across member worlds. The Nalari representative's serpentine form coiled with anxiety as she addressed the assembly. "The situation is far worse than we initially understood. Human technology is embedded in our infrastructure at levels we never imagined. Communication networks, transportation systems, defense grids, even our basic life support systems all contain human components that are now failing." High Judge Mira felt the weight of catastrophe settling on her shoulders. "How is this possible? We had oversight committees, inspection protocols, safety measures. How did an entire species integrate themselves so thoroughly without detection?" The synthetic collective's representative, a mechanical being whose logical processes were unaffected by emotion, provided the answer. "Analysis indicates that humanity employed a strategy of incremental integration over 50 years. Each individual contribution was small and beneficial, creating positive associations with human technology. The cumulative effect, however, was systematic dependency. As if to demonstrate the point, the council chamber's main lighting system flickered, then stabilized at reduced brightness. Emergency power systems engaged automatically, but the backup generators hummed with the strain of carrying loads they were never designed to handle. Dr. Elena Martinez, one of the last human researchers still in galactic space, received an urgent communication at her evacuation point on Research Station Omega. The caller was High Judge Mira herself, her normally composed demeanor cracked with barely concealed panic. "Dr. Martinez, we need you to explain what your people have done. Half the galaxy's infrastructure is failing, and we are discovering human components in systems we never knew contained them." Martinez, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and graying hair, looked genuinely sad as she responded. "Your Honor, what we have done is exactly what any prudent species would do when integrating into a larger civilization. We found ways to make ourselves useful. But the quantum processors, the neural pathway enhancers, the dimensional stability components, we have no records of human involvement in those technologies. Because you did not think to look, Martinez replied gently. When humanity joined the galactic community, we realized we could not compete in raw power or ancient political influence. So we became indispensable in subtler ways. Every innovation we shared, every collaborative project we joined, every piece of technology we helped improve, we ensured that our contributions were woven into the fundamental operations of galactic civilization. The judge's 6 eyes widened as the full implications became clear. You are saying that humanity deliberately made the galaxy dependent on your technology? Not dependent, Martinez corrected, echoing Admiral Stone's earlier words. Integrated. We never held anything hostage, never threatened to withdraw our contributions. We simply became such a natural part of the galactic technological ecosystem that removing us would cause severe complications. As if summoned by her words, alerts began flashing on the judge's personal command console. Reports were streaming in from across the galaxy. Transportation networks operating at reduced efficiency, communication systems experiencing significant lag, defense platforms cycling between operational and offline states with no discernible pattern. Martinez gathered her personal belongings as she continued speaking. I am afraid this is where I must take my leave, Your Honor. My transport to human space departs in 1 hour, and I cannot miss it. Wait, Judge Mira called out desperately. Surely we can negotiate. The council was hasty in its judgment. Perhaps we can reconsider the expulsion order, find some middle ground. I am sorry, Martinez said, and her sadness appeared genuine. The decision has been made by your council and accepted by humanity. We are withdrawing completely from galactic affairs. All our people, all our technology, all our knowledge, everything returns to Earth and her colonies. But the technological crisis will destroy galactic civilization. Billions of beings depend on the systems you are dismantling. Martinez paused at the communication terminal's threshold, her expression heavy with regret. Your Honor, humanity spent 50 years contributing to galactic civilization in good faith. We shared our knowledge freely, enhanced your technologies willingly, and integrated ourselves into your society because we believed we had found our place among the stars. The Council's judgment has made it clear that our contributions are not valued, and our presence is not welcome. She looked directly into the camera, and Judge Mira saw steel beneath the woman's gentle demeanor. We are not destroying anything, Your Honor. We are simply taking back what was always ours. The galaxy will adapt as civilizations always do, but it will adapt without humanity. As the hologram flickered and died, Judge Mira found herself staring at a blank display, finally understanding the true scope of humanity's quiet revolution. They had not conquered the galaxy through force or political manipulation. They had made themselves so thoroughly integrated into galactic civilization that their absence was creating a technological dark age. Reports continued flooding in from across the galaxy. The great space lanes that connected core worlds operated at 30% efficiency. Interstellar communication experienced delays that turned real-time conversations into stuttering exchanges across light years. Most critically, the automated defense grids, protecting major population centers, flickered between operational and offline states with unpredictable timing. The Gorlani representative's massive stone-like form trembled with barely contained rage. How long before we face complete systemic failure? The synthetic collective's representative processed incoming data streams before responding. Conservative estimates suggest 3 to 6 months before critical infrastructure collapses. Optimistic projections assume our engineers can reverse engineer human contributions within that time frame. And if they cannot? The mechanical being's optical sensors dimmed slightly. Then we face a regression to pre-integration technological levels. Essentially, we would lose approximately 200 years of technological advancement. A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the assembled representatives contemplated the magnitude of the crisis. The species that had expelled humanity as a minor irritant now faced the possibility that their decision had triggered the collapse of galactic civilization itself, and somewhere, in the darkness between the stars, human ships continued their silent departure, carrying with them the keys to technologies that the galaxy was only now realizing it could not live without. 3 months after humanity's expulsion, The Galactic Council faced a crisis that threatened to unravel 3,000 years of civilization. What had begun as isolated technical failures had cascaded into a galaxy-wide technological catastrophe. High Judge Mira stood before the emergency assembly, her imposing presence diminished by the weight of impending doom. The great council chamber itself bore witness to the crisis. Emergency lighting cast harsh shadows across the curved benches, where representatives from 47 species displayed various expressions of panic according to their physiological capabilities. The chamber's magnificent holographic displays flickered intermittently, their images distorted by failing projection systems that no one could properly repair. The situation continues to deteriorate beyond our worst projections, Judge Mira announced, her voice echoing strangely in the acoustically compromised chamber. Our best engineers have worked continuously to reverse the failures, but every solution creates new problems. We are facing the genuine possibility that our technological civilization may collapse entirely. Within 60 days, the Vex representative's multiple arms gestured frantically as data streams crawled across damaged display screens. How did we not know? How did an entire species integrate themselves so completely into our infrastructure without any of our monitoring systems detecting the dependency? Before Judge Mira could respond, the chamber's massive communication array activated with a clarity that contrasted sharply with the failing systems around it. The face of General Patricia Stone appeared on the screens, broadcasting from somewhere deep in human space. Her image was crystal clear despite the galaxy's crippled communication networks, a technological feat that sent chills through the assembled representatives. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, Stone began, her voice carrying the confidence of absolute authority. I hope I'm not interrupting anything critical. The audacity of the statement sent waves of shock through the assembly. The Nalari representative's serpentine form coiled aggressively, her voice carrying barely controlled fury. How dare you contact this assembly? Humanity has been expelled from all council proceedings. Stone's smile was polite, but carried an edge that made several representatives instinctively retreat. Of course, I am not contacting you as any kind of representative to the council. I am simply making a courtesy call to inform you of certain developments that may be of interest. Judge Mira leaned forward despite herself. What developments? As you have undoubtedly noticed, the withdrawal of human technology has created some challenges for galactic infrastructure. What you may not have fully understood is that this is merely the beginning of a much larger process. Stone's image was replaced by comprehensive star charts showing the galaxy in unprecedented detail. Red indicators marked failing systems across known space, but more ominously, yellow indicators showed systems that were still functional but operating on borrowed time. The scope was staggering. Nearly every inhabited system showed some level of technological degradation. You see, Stone continued, her voice now coming from off-screen. Human integration into galactic technology was not simply about physical components or even software systems. It was about fundamental knowledge. The quantum resonance theories that make your hyperdrives possible, those were enhanced and optimized by human mathematical frameworks. The neural pathway algorithms that run your artificial intelligence networks, those were refined using human cognitive science principles. The dimensional stabilization equations that prevent your space stations from drifting into parallel realities, those problems were solved by human physicists working in collaboration with your scientists. The chamber fell into stunned silence as the implications became clear. They had not simply lost technology, they had lost the knowledge foundation that made their civilization possible. Now, I am confident your scientists will eventually rediscover these principles. Stone continued, her tone almost conversational. After all, they are not inherently human concepts. The mathematics of reality operates the same way regardless of which species discovers it. It might take a few decades to rebuild the theoretical frameworks, perhaps a century or two to fully restore functionality. Your people are quite intelligent. The ethereal representative's crystalline form shifted through agitated color patterns that expressed desperate fear. What do you want? This is clearly extortion. Name your price for restoring the technology. Stone's voice carried genuine surprise. Extortion? I'm afraid you misunderstand the situation completely. This is not a negotiation, and we are not making demands. This is simply an explanation of cause and effect. The Council made a decision to expel humanity from galactic civilization, and we are respecting that decision fully. We are not threatening anyone or demanding anything. We are simply departing as ordered." General Stone's face reappeared on the screens, and this time her expression carried what could almost be interpreted as sympathy. "The tragedy of this situation is that none of it was necessary. Humanity never sought to dominate galactic civilization or hold anyone hostage to our technology. We simply wanted to be valued members of the galactic community. Your judgment has made it clear that our contributions are not welcome and our presence is not desired." She paused, allowing the weight of her words to settle over the assembly like a heavy blanket. "However, there is one final matter you should be aware of. In approximately 24 hours, the last human research teams will complete their withdrawal from the Nexus Array project." The chamber erupted in panicked voices from dozens of species. The Nexus Array represented the galaxy's most ambitious defense project, a massive sensor network designed to detect threats from beyond the galactic rim. It was scheduled to become operational within months, representing the first early warning system against extragalactic dangers that had plagued galactic nightmares for millennia. "You cannot abandon that project," Judge Mira shouted above the chaos, her composed demeanor finally cracking under the pressure. "The Nexus Array is critical to galactic defense. Without it, we are blind to threats from dark space." "Again," Stone replied with calm finality. "This is not abandonment. This is compliance with your judgment. Humanity has been formally expelled from all galactic affairs. Therefore, we can no longer participate in galactic defense projects, collaborative research initiatives, or any other aspect of interstellar cooperation." The Gorlani representative's massive form created tremors in the floor as he struggled to contain his rage. "But the theoretical frameworks for the array are entirely human. Without your mathematical models, the sensor network cannot function." Stone's expression remained unchanged. "Then perhaps the Council should have considered that before rendering judgment." As the communication ended, leaving the Council in horrified silence, emergency alerts began flooding in from across the galaxy. The withdrawal of human teams from the Nexus Array had triggered cascading failures in related defense systems. Early warning networks went dark. Patrol routes became inefficient. Most terrifying of all, several outer rim colonies reported losing contact with deep space monitoring. Stations, the synthetic, collective's representative processed the incoming data with mechanical precision before delivering its analysis. The implications are clear. Without the Nexus Array and related human-designed systems, the galaxy's defensive capabilities will regress to pre-integration levels. We will essentially be defenseless against any organized threat from beyond our borders. A new realization began to dawn on the assembled representatives. Humanity had not just made themselves useful to galactic civilization, they had made themselves responsible for its protection. The species they had expelled as a minor annoyance had been the silent guardians keeping watch against the darkness between galaxies. And now, for the first time in 50 years, that darkness was approaching an undefended galaxy. In the depths of space beyond the galactic rim, ancient sensors detected the absence of the human-designed early warning networks. Things that had waited patiently in the void between galaxies began to stir, sensing opportunity in the sudden technological silence. The galaxy had expelled its protectors, and something in the dark had noticed. 6 months after the verdict, the last human transport ships gathered at the edge of the Sol system, in a formation that spoke of absolute finality. Each vessel carried not just evacuated personnel, but the accumulated knowledge, technology, and cultural heritage of a species that had spent 50 years weaving itself into the fabric of galactic civilization. The elegant spiral of departing ships stretched across space like a silent farewell to everything humanity had built among the stars. On the observation deck of the flagship Terra Nova, Ambassador Marcus Webb stood beside General Patricia Stone, watching as the final evacuation vessels took their positions. Below them, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, while massive automated platforms worked tirelessly to dismantle the last human installations in known space. "Any response from the Council to our final diplomatic communications?" Stone asked, her eyes tracking the precise movements of the departing fleet. Webb consulted a datapad that displayed dozens of desperate messages from across the galaxy. 73 official requests for emergency negotiations, 26 formal retractions of the expulsion order, 15 offers to grant humanity permanent council membership, and one rather pathetic plea from High Judge Mira, to at least leave behind complete technical documentation for critical systems. And our response? Complete silence, Webb replied, just as we planned from the beginning. The strategic withdrawal had unfolded exactly as humanity's long-term planners had predicted when they first encountered galactic civilization 50 years earlier. When facing an interstellar community thousands of years older and vastly more numerous, direct confrontation was impossible. Military conquest was laughable. Political manipulation would be detected and countered by species with millennia of experience in such things. But integration, deep, meaningful, irreversible integration, that created leverage no amount of ancient wisdom or military might could counter. The genius of humanity's approach had not been in making themselves indispensable through force or deception, but through genuine contribution. Every human innovation shared with galactic civilization had been real, beneficial, and freely offered. The fact that these contributions had been strategically designed to create inevitable interdependence was simply prudent. Long-term planning for a species that understood it was the junior partner in a very dangerous universe. Signal from deep space. Monitoring stations, reported Commander Lisa Martinez from the bridge. Council ships are maintaining their distance at the edge of the system, but they are definitely observing our departure. Webb smiled slightly, an expression that carried both sadness and grim satisfaction. Let them watch. They will have much more to observe in the coming years. As the last human ships prepared to activate their hyperdrives, Earth's automated systems broadcast a final message to the galaxy. The transmission was not sent through official diplomatic channels, but through the same quantum communication network that humanity had designed and optimized. The message reached every inhabited world simultaneously, transmitted in the common galactic language with perfect clarity, despite the failing infrastructure. The species known as humanity hereby formally completes its withdrawal from all galactic affairs, as mandated by Galactic Council Resolution 7749. We leave behind no enmity, no desire for revenge, and no malicious intent toward any member species of the galactic community. We depart with gratitude for the 50 years of cooperation and shared discovery that enriched both humanity and our galactic neighbors. We take with us fond memories of collaborative achievements and the hope that the galaxy will find ways to continue growing and prospering. However, we also leave behind a lesson that we hope will serve the Council well in future decisions. In this vast and often dangerous universe, wisdom lies not in driving away those who would stand beside you, but in recognizing the value of willing allies before their absence becomes a catastrophe. The cosmos is vast beyond imagination, and humanity has much to explore in the spaces between galaxies. Perhaps when the current crisis has passed and the galaxy has rebuilt what was lost, we may meet again under different circumstances. Until that day, we bid the galactic community farewell and wish you success in facing whatever challenges await in the darkness beyond your borders. The transmission ended with a finality that resonated across the galaxy. Within moments, every human ship activated its hyperdrive simultaneously, but their destination was not toward any known star system or inhabited world. Instead, they jumped outward, beyond the galactic rim, into the vast intergalactic void where no council authority had ever ventured and no mapped space lanes existed. As the last hyperspace signatures faded from galactic sensors, High Judge Mira stood in her private chambers aboard the failing council station. The lights flickered intermittently around her as she stared out at the stars, knowing that somewhere in that darkness, threats were already moving toward the now defenseless galaxy. The reports had been arriving for weeks, deep space monitoring stations going silent, patrol vessels reporting sensor contacts that vanished before they could be identified. Most disturbing of all, automated defense platforms in the outer rim were registering massive gravitational anomalies approaching from the direction of the galactic void. Exactly the type of signatures the Nexus Array had been designed to detect and analyze. Without human technology and expertise, the galaxy was not just technologically crippled, it was blind to the very threats that had made the defense network necessary in the first place. A communication chime interrupted her grim thoughts. The message was from the Emergency Coordination Center, where the Council's best remaining scientists were working desperately to restore basic functionality to critical systems. Your Honor, We have managed to partially restore the long-range communication array. We are receiving distress signals from the Outer Rim colonies. Something is approaching from intergalactic space. Multiple contacts. Massive scale trajectory suggests hostile intent. Judge Mira closed her eyes, finally understanding the full scope of the mistake she and the Council had made. Humanity had not just been useful members of galactic civilization. They had been its silent guardians, watching the darkness beyond the galaxy's edge and preparing defenses against threats that older species had forgotten could exist. Broadcast an emergency message to all member worlds, she ordered. Activate all available defense fleets and prepare for potential hostile contact. And send one more message to human space wherever they have gone. Tell them the galaxy realizes its error and begs for their return. The aide's response carried the weight of absolute despair. Your Honor, our long-range communication systems can no longer reach beyond the galactic rim. Humanity has moved beyond our ability to contact them. As Judge Mira contemplated the approaching darkness, she realized that the galaxy had not just expelled its most valuable allies, it had driven away its protectors at the exact moment when protection would be needed most. In the vast emptiness between galaxies, humanity's ships sailed toward unknown destinations, carrying with them the technology, knowledge, and defensive capabilities that might have saved galactic civilization from what was coming. The humans had departed silently, but their silence now spoke louder than any words of warning they might have offered. And in the darkness beyond the galactic rim, ancient intelligences that had waited patiently for this moment began their long journey toward a galaxy that had just made itself defenseless against threats it had forgotten existed. The Council had feared humanity's growing influence and expelled them to preserve galactic stability. Instead, they had guaranteed its destruction.